Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're tackling a massive pain point for enterprise IT, and that's Windows Autopilot device lookups. Look, if you're an IT director or a senior manager on the ground, you already know that deploying devices at scale needs to be absolutely seamless. But when things go wrong, hunting down the right data can turn into an absolute nightmare. So, based on insights from EndpointWeekly, we're going to fix that right now. We'll be transforming that tedious manual lookup process into a sleek, automated Microsoft Graph PowerShell powerhouse. Let's just dive right in. So, let me pose a very real scenario to you. Imagine you've just received a massive shipment of, say, 100 new laptops. Or maybe you've got a user staring at a failed out-of-box experience screen, an OOBE failure, and that helped us ticket just got escalated directly to you. How exactly do you check those 100 Autopilot serial numbers all at once? How do you know for sure if a specific device's hardware hash actually made it into your tenant? If you're still relying on the default tools, well, you already know the exact frustration I'm talking about. The sheer difference in efficiency we're talking about here is just staggering. In the standard Intune Admin Center, you're pretty much stuck searching exactly one result at a time. It's a completely manual bottleneck. But by shifting gears and leveraging the Graph API, we transition to a highly scalable one-command solution. We're talking about pulling a full, filtered list for literally any number of devices instantly. Now, for the IT directors and leadership joining us, the business value here is crystal clear. We aren't just writing cool scripts for the fun of it. We're driving real operational efficiency. By automating this, you can audit massive device shipments the second they hit your loading dock. You're going to drastically cut down the time spent troubleshooting those costly OOBE failures. Ultimately, it's all about doing more with less, right? Here's how we're going to break it down today. First, we'll look at the scaling problem itself. Second, automating with Graph PowerShell. Third, handling bulk lookups for procurement. Fourth, some crucial admin gotchas. And finally, number 5, troubleshooting hardware hashes. All right, let's jump into section 1, the scaling problem, and exactly why Intune falls short here. If you go into the Intune Admin Center and casually navigate through devices to enrollment and then to Windows Autopilot devices, sure, it works perfectly fine if you only have one single device to look up. But at scale, it totally breaks down. There's no bulk search, there's no export and filter workflow. You literally cannot just paste a column of serial numbers from an Excel sheet and hit enter. For an IT department managing hundreds or thousands of endpoints, this limitation is an incredibly frustrating time sink. Moving right along to section 2, let's get into automating with Graph PowerShell and how to set it all up. The setup is actually incredibly straightforward. It's just 3 basic steps. First up, you'll need to install the Microsoft Graph Device Management Enrollment module. Next, you run connectmg Graph, which is going to pop open a browser window asking you to sign in with your EntraID admin account. And third, you'll just execute the filter commandlet for the actual lookup. Simple as that. Now, a really crucial point here is security. When you authenticate, you have to define your permission scope. And the golden rule? Do not use a higher privilege scope than you need. If you're just doing basic lookups, the scope device management service config.read.all is perfectly sufficient. You really only need to escalate to readwrite.all if you're actually going to programmatically update things like group tags. Always follow the principle of least privilege. And here is the magic command we've been waiting for. Get MG Device Management Windows Autopilot Device Identity. Yeah, okay, it is quite a mouthful, I know. But when you combine it with a filter parameter, this one single line of code completely replaces all that manual clicking around the portal. You just pass it a serial number, and it instantly tells you if that device is actually registered in your Autopilot tenant. But watch out, because here is a massive gotcha for the admins out there. This filter can actually be case sensitive depending on the tenant. You see, Autopilot serial numbers are stored exactly as they were uploaded by the manufacturer or the reseller. So if the serial number was uploaded as a lowercase ABC123, running a filter for an uppercase ABC123 is going to return absolutely nothing. It'll make you falsely believe the device isn't registered. So always match the exact case, or just use the toLower function in your OData filter to force a case-insensitive match. Save yourself the headache. So when you actually run that command, what data do you get back? Well, this raw data translates directly into actionable intelligence. The serial number confirms the exact string living in the database. The group tag is absolutely critical because that dictates your dynamic EntraID group membership and determines which deployment profile gets assigned. And the enrollment state tells you exactly where the device is in its lifecycle, whether it's actively enrolled, pending a wipe, or maybe has never even contacted the service at all. Okay, section 3, bulk lookups for procurement. This is where we automate those massive lists. This right here is the time-saving workflow we have been building towards. Imagine you take a spreadsheet directly from your procurement team. You save it as a CSV with a serial number column, then you run a quick PowerShell for each loop that just passes each serial through our graph command. Finally, it spits out a brand new CSV detailing exactly which devices are registered, their group tags, and their current status. What used to take hours of manual mind-numbing checking, it now takes about 10 seconds. Just a quick heads up for our really large enterprise environments. 1,000 is the default maximum number of devices the Graph API is going to return per page. If you're doing massive tenant-wide audits and you want to pull down your entire Autopilot list instead of filtering by serial, you just simply add the all switch to the command. That'll completely bypass that pagination limit for you. Let's move to Section 4. We need to talk about some serious admin gotchas regarding group tags and GPOs. There's a timing discrepancy here that is a huge potential trap for your rollouts. If you use Graph to update a group tag, the Autopilot record updates instantly at minute 0. But EntraID dynamic groups calculate asynchronously. Normally, you're looking at maybe 2 to 5 minutes. But on very large enterprise tenants, that dynamic group recalculation can actually lag for up to 24 hours. If your end user turns on the laptop and hits OOBE before that group updates, they're going to get the wrong deployment profile. Always update your tags well ahead of the physical deployment. Furthermore, it is absolutely vital to remember this. Windows Autopilot has no group policy equivalent. It is strictly a cloud-only operation. If you're operating a hybrid environment, please do not try to control Autopilot provisioning with GPOs. Registration, profile assignment, group tags, all of that lives entirely in the Intune and Graph layer. GPOs will only apply after the device has completely finished enrolling and officially joins the domain. Finally, Section 5. Let's get our hands dirty troubleshooting hardware hashes and those dreaded OUB failures. So what happens when Graph returns a total blank? Well, you have to investigate the physical device itself. You're going to need to hit Shift plus F10 on that OOBE screen to force open the command prompt. Then launch PowerShell as an administrator and run mdmdiagnostictool.exe. This is a native Windows tool, and it quickly packages up all the deployment logs into a single file called autopilot.cab. Now, inside that cab file, you are hunting for one very specific critical document. It's called Autopilot DDS ZTD file.json. This JSON file basically holds the keys to the kingdom. It contains the raw data that the physical device is trying to present to Microsoft's cloud, and most importantly, it holds the hardware hash string, which is known in the file as the ZTD device identifier. When you pop open that JSON file, check that ZTD device identifier immediately. If that field is completely missing, or if it's just an empty string, well, you've just found your smoking gun. It means the hardware hash was never successfully captured and uploaded to Intune by your hardware vendor in the first place. This definitively explains why the Graph API lookup returned 0 results earlier, because as far as Microsoft is concerned, this laptop doesn't even exist. And that brings us to the definitive fix. If that identifier is empty, you really don't need to waste your time resetting the network adapter or rebooting the machine a dozen times hoping it'll just work. The only actual solution is to manually rerun the hardware hash capture script right there on the physical device. Upload that CSV directly to Intune, and then wait for the profile to assign. You've officially gone from a mysterious, frustrating failure to a targeted, immediate resolution. All right, so we've covered the underlying scaling problem, the exact Graph API commands to fix it, how to handle bulk scaling, and even a deep dive into on-device troubleshooting. So I want to leave you with a question to really think about. How much time will this kind of PowerShell automation save your IT department this week alone? By implementing what we've covered in this explainer, you're finally moving away from that manual, repetitive help desk frustration and moving towards scalable, automated IT management. Thanks so much for diving into all of this with me today. Now go put these tools to work in your tenant.